Hello, Laura. So happy you're here. Hi.
It's so good to see you. I'm always genuinely happy to see you. Like I don't
Same.
is that a you thing or an us thing?
I think it's an us thing.
Oh
I
my
think we
God.
have I think we have friendship chemistry like big time.
I think so too. Oh my God. I'm hugging you. I'm
Well,
Zoom
this goes
hugging you.
back. I wanted to say something about you that for whatever reason, always need to remind you about.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I've been sober 16 years as of last month.
Wild.
When I had I don't remember what I had, maybe 60 days. I went to a show. I'm obviously not telling you because you already know this, but
I
for our
remember, yes.
audience, we went to this show. You were performing in a show called, I think she called it Lit or Lit Up.
Lit up.
Lit Up. Jane Edith Wilson, who's been a guest on this show, she had a
Oh,
show
that.
where people would read stories. It was like a storytelling show.
Yeah.
And I went to it. I think I might have been performing. And
Oh, you were.
you your story was basically you were just reading journal entries about like drunk stories. You were reading about you talking about like I might have a drinking problem and about drinking in your journal. And it was so funny. And it was what I needed. I
Oh,
was feeling so raw and emotional. And, imagine for anybody that's sober having 60 days, the
oh,
place that you're in, you're just
Lord.
feeling like a raw nerve. Like
Yeah.
everybody knows. It's like sort of like when you're high and you think everybody knows you're high. It's like you're
Yeah.
sober and you feel like everybody's looking at you like what's going on with you?
Very
And I came up to you
exposed.
after, yes,
Yeah.
and told you. I was like, I have 60 days sober right now. And you were like, oh my God, that's you were so sweet. I didn't know you very
Oh.
well at all. So you were just like, that's amazing. Good for you. You were very nice.
Oh, that was, I mean, so I have, thank you. And I love that you remember that and that you remind me. I'm coming up on 18. So I would have only had like a year and a something
Yeah, you were
or
kind of
whatever.
new too. Yeah.
So yeah, so it was amazing. And yeah, I wrote and you know what? The one thing that bugs me about that story, I cannot find it. That is
Oh,
I keep everything, everything. And that is like the one piece. I even have a folder called Lit Up and here's my story. And I'm like, is this the what? And like I cannot find it, but I journaled. I did not drink for in actively in high school. I actively did not drink until my junior year. I was very like Southern Baptist. And then I was a foreign exchange student in Norway. And then, I mean, just no rules. And so when I came back my senior year, I I drank. I must have had a drink before I went to Norway because I basically had a few drink wine coolers and came home and journaled about it. Like what a dork. Like I have to write down how this feels. And I was like, my knees are melting onto the bed. And like I was so happy drinking and writing about it like a young Hemingway, I guess.
I mean, I know you and I know your story, so I do love the fact that you are this person who is just like, I think I want to be a foreign exchange student. I think I'm going to go do that. How am I going to make that happen? Well, you were like 15.
Yeah, I was. It's stunning looking back on it. What's really stunning is like I didn't have I didn't have like cool parents or anything, you know. I mean, we could say we could call them that at this time, you know, like, oh, that was very cool of them to let me go. But my mom was they were conservative people. My mom was a seventh grade teacher. My dad worked at City Hall. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, they were bohemian or, you know, owned a craft store. Like they were shocked that I asked, but my mom thought travel was important. And then they signed a year. It wasn't like I was gone for 6 weeks. I was gone 11 and a half months. Like it was my entire junior year. And then what made me laugh was when I came back, I'm from a small town in Texas. And when I came back, my mom would say things like, when I would go out, she would say like, we'll be back by 10. And I was like, you have not known where I was for a year. And she was, well, I'm still your mom. And, I need to know where you are. But it was just so funny. Like, you haven't known one thing I've done for a year, except for what I chose to tell you in 1987, where, it's not like she was looking at my Facebook page or whatever.
Right. There was no Life 360.
Yeah, there was no internet or email. I mean, it was like you had a phone call that was $8 a minute or whatever, or they were very quick. We were not saying much. And then, or you wrote a letter that took 2 weeks to arrive, 2 weeks to get a letter back. So it was like you might as well have been writing Colin Firth in some movie, like yeah, that is so funny to think that I did that, but I did, and it was a
But did you
thrill. It was a
drink
great.
there? So did you start
Yes,
drinking there?
I did. That was I mean, alcohol was available to me all the time. My parents drank and they were like happy with it and open about, and happy out. And we could have sips of stuff. I was not like, some people are kept away from stuff. And then when they go to college, it's like they're the Amish Rumspringer or whatever,
Yeah.
they just go nuts. And we didn't have, they were like, sure, you can have, or even when we drank, my mom was like, well, just, if you're gonna drink here. That was her rule. Drink here. I don't want you driving. I don't want you out, like, and she one time told me, well, don't mix alcohol with Coke, like a cola. Like, she was like, don't mix it with sugar, you'll get sick. Like, that was our booze talk. But my rebellion was in junior high. I went to the Southern Baptist Church with my friend Cindy, and I loved it. I was like, because we were Episcopalian, and I guess I was jealous of like the big church kids at school in a way. And like, Episcopalian was, I was kind of religious as a kid when I learned about God. Like I asked the priest one time, like, how do we do confession, or how do we talk to God? And I remember the priest saying, I was like 8, and the priest was like, well, we don't really do confession. And then, but if you want, you can, pray to Mary, who can take it to Jesus to be an intercessory, for intercessor for God. And I was like, I can't just talk to God. Like it, you, you get this concept of God, and then you're told like, yeah, but don't bug him.
Right. Right.
So
Tell somebody else first. We'll see if it's
yeah,
important
like,
enough
well,
to like
tell
run it up
Mary.
the
And I'm like,
flag.
I don't know if Mary's gonna quote me right.
Hmm.
Why does she have to be the secretary? I mean, there was
Right.
just it was a weird answer, to be honest. But anyway, I'm making this such a long story, but Southern Baptist, there's no drinking, but they were so fun. There's summer camps in Colorado and choir trips, and there was a big gym at the church, and there were so many boys. And let me lean in a second. I have figured out, looking back on it, like I wasn't unattractive. I was maybe a school 7, but I was a church 9. So I think that's really why I went. I think I really was like, the boys are so cute. I am very cute here. Like, I've entered a realm where I have more pull
I
than
had that
a
same
great high
thing
school.
with Jewish. I was part of like Jewish youth organizations, and I
Yes.
was not hot at my school. Same thing, but I would go to these things, they called it like conclave, and I was like the hit of the ball. I would come home with so many phone numbers, and I had guys writing me, guys fighting over me, and I
Falling in
was
love with you.
and then my mom used that against me, like if my grades weren't good, that I wouldn't be able to go to the next convention. And it was like, she didn't understand that I was like, that is the only place boys like me. You must let me go. Yeah.
That
Life
is so
changing.
funny. Is that in like a Judy Blume book somewhere? That, I mean, it is so funny. The idea, like, that's like almost like a girl Harry Potter version of like, oh, I'm just live under the stairs here. But in this world, I'm so cute. Like, that was the fantasy. So long story long is, so I was actively for years like seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th grade, like I was called super Christian. I was like super into church, and my friends would drink, and I was like, I don't drink. And I think I am embarrassed. I would have said like that's devil juice. I'm sure I said on more than one occasion. And I think like full on, like to my one time my parents made like beer cheese soup, and I was outraged.
Oh my God.
They were like, "Do you want some?" And I was like, "That is, you can't try to give me devil juice." I was so persecuted, and they were like, "She is crazy," especially like considering I grew up to drink for 20 years, like pretty excessively, and like it just so I was just ridiculous. But when I got to Norway, they were I it wasn't my plan. It was, I mean, I could have had a drink anywhere, but when I got to Norway, they were like, "Oh, well, here we think it's normal to drink and that church is weird." And I was like, "Well, I can see that."
Wow. You betrayed your people real fast.
Oh, so fast. And I mean, my wanting to fit in and like fear of missing out is like is my monster in a way. Like I always I feel like maybe I jump around or land on different things on like kind of what how to identify the monster that is addiction. Like what is that? It's never enoughness. I sometimes say like all I want is a fire hose of money and compliments. Like two fire hoses directed at me, and one just money and one just compliments. And like that's my idea of happiness. Like it's just this, well, what are you gonna do? Well, I'll do that. It's just this needy monster bear.
That was the the way that I knew something was different about me, even just as a kid, was just the intense neediness. Just I
Intense.
want, if I can't just have friendship, it needs to be like I need to see the person every single day. I need them to be my best friend. I can't just have a little sugar. I need to have all the sugar. If I
All the
fell in love with a
sugar.
song, the amount of obsession I would have with music was just like a song. And I was like, I'll die if I'm not listening to this song. Like I would have to miss out. I
Wow.
mean, I would sit. Remember when the only way, well, you might not be as old as me, but when
I
you would,
am
if
certain I am.
before before you would have to wait for the song to come on the radio,
Oh yeah.
and then you'd have to hit record on your
Yes.
tape recorder
Did it.
so that I could listen to the song again because I couldn't
I
go buy it. I was too young.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna jump in that hole with you. And the way you just put it is so incredible. Intense neediness is exactly it. And I one time broke my toe, my two end pinky and the next one because the stereo was on in my room and I was in the game room, and Jack and Diane came on, and I had to be in my room to listen to it a little louder than I could enjoy, and I ran full speed through the house and then conked my foot on my dresser, the foot of my dresser, and like limped, grabbing my foot to the bed and laid on the bed and, "Oh yeah, life goes." And then like an hour later, my foot is as big as the sun. And my mom was like, "What happened?" And then I was on crutches.
Oh my God. Okay,
Yes,
well, I relate. I really
I'm with
relate
you.
to that. I had an obsession with the John Lennon song Woman for a while.
Did you feel like you
Woman.
wanted to be the kind of woman that a man like that would write that song about you?
Maybe, but it was just
I want to
there
be
was
woman.
something about the sound of the song. There was some, you know what I mean? It just, I
Yes.
never knew when it was going to hit me, but there was something about a song that if it just hit me the right way, I couldn't stop listening. I could listen to it 1,000 times, and then I would purposely try to make myself sick of it because it was,
I have to get over
it
this.
was like alcoholism. It was like
That's
I
so
need to,
addiction.
it was so
You know
addiction.
what? I'll just do this till the wheels come off, and then I won't want to anymore, which has
Yes,
never worked one time for anyone ever who's an addict. I
never.
I had that response to a couple of things. And I also love that. I've never thought of it a song in the terms that you just said, but I had ABC when they had Millionaire, and I maybe they weren't the one, but Millionaire, that album, when like new wave music came out, I
Yeah.
had that response to it. Like what is happening to my ears? B-52s and stuff when I heard what is, but that song, I don't even think it is ABC. Is it Animotion? Anyway, Fascination.
Yeah, that's Animotion.
Yes, Animotion, Fascination. I still I don't have to pull the car over, but almost still.
Yeah, it's weird because, and I don't know if this is being in recovery. I don't know what it is, but I don't really have that. Sometimes I almost want to. I had it as like only a few years ago, I would make my kids, there would be certain kid, like a Justin Bieber song somehow. My kids would be playing it and I'd be like, huh, what song is that? Like it would catch me. And then
Yeah.
I'd be like, I want to hear that again. I want to hear it again. And then even my kids would be like, all right, enough, mom. We can't hear the song anymore. And I'd be like, I
Wow.
can. But I haven't had it in a while.
That's funny.
I almost miss the feeling of loving
I
something that much.
Yes, there is, I mean, there is a high. I mean, we must be getting whatever scientists call in, dopamine, serotonin, whatever drug chemical, brain chemical we get, we must be getting from that, because it is like a high of like, also when like you shouldn't, like it's 3 a.m, you're still going, and like that's a certain thrill as well. Like
Right, right. But you had it with other stuff too, which we'll get into. But boys, right? I mean,
please,
yeah. I'm,
you had it
I
with
was
boys.
definitely an across the board. Oh yeah, the pining for boys and I had so many unrequited crushes that,
Oh
you know,
gosh.
I thought I would die if the person didn't like me back.
Die. And the honestly, the word intense that you said is the word, like the drama when okay, I was 10, maybe 8 or 10 when Grease came out. But you would have thought I dated Danny and he blew me off in front of all my friends and his friends. I mean, the degree to which I would role play Hopelessly Devoted to You in pajamas in my room, just the longing out, like I'm 8 or
Right.
10 or, like I really had not had intense romance experiences. I mean, in a way I had kissed and I had been, I guess I had kind of gotten married at school in first grade. I guess I had like somewhat of some, but anyway, but it's wild that you just like, I love this intense weird emotion. And like, if I don't have kids, but if I did, I would be, I feel like very disturbed by them. I mean, I don't know if I would be disturbed by them if I saw it, or if I would see that and then therefore go, oh, this must be normal and just kids are weird. Like I
I
was
think you just might recognize it in yourself. I'm very hyper aware of
mm,
my kids and like, is that like me? Is that like me? So I'm always on, and whatever's going to happen with them is going to happen. But I do, it's easy to recognize certain signs that now I know everybody didn't feel.
yes.
Mostly people with addiction felt. I think, I don't know. So, okay. So you start drinking when you get back from Norway because you're changed. You're no longer like it's devil juice.
Yeah, in Norway, I'm drinking, and then I continued drinking when I got back. Um, and I was like periodic. I mean, as far as the drinking goes, like, and you mentioned I'm, also like across the board. If I had to narrow it down to three addictions, guys, pies, and booze is how I like to.
Which is you're going to be your book.
That's my interest is yeah, the guys, pies, and booze, because I first there's just food, because I mean, that would be advanced to like be 4 and hit the liquor cabinet. I mean, I'm sure somebody did, but like first there's cookies at a party. Why did we stop eating those? We had cookies at 4 and now it's 7. I don't understand why we aren't still eating cookies. Just the logic of like, why aren't we drinking Coke? There's still some Coke around. Like, why? And I would sneak in and siphon off chocolate chips from the bag, or, like, you learn so quickly, like, to be so devious of, well, enough so they can't tell and I won't get in trouble. And maybe if you have to siphon off several different things, or, she never notices how many chocolate chips there or whatever the thing is. So yeah, it was food. And then boys, I was always boy crazy. And when I was 10 or so, my mom's mom was kind of mean about weight and stuff. She was very like bone thin. And my mom was sort of, I don't know, chunky. I don't know. She was a seventh grade teacher. She looked like all the teachers you ever had, just regular. And she told me, and I was like kind of a regular kid too, maybe like somewhat husky or something, but I was not fat. There was not a problem per se, but uh she's she like chain smoked in our kitchen and put us down and criticized. And then she told me, she was like, you know what you should do? You should make a girdle out of an inner tube and lose some weight. Then the boys will like you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I was like,
You have no idea
oh,
how common this is in these episodes that I do. So many
oh
women have been through.
really?
Yes, yes, is really common.
A mean grandmother, or like you should change so
Grandmother
you
or the
love?
mom or the mom,
Yes.
but just hearing that our bodies are not okay.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I was, I believe, 8 when she said that, and then at 10 I went on a crash diet and like you eat vegetables one day and fruit one day and beef and tomatoes one day, and cabbage soup diet, and lost weight. And it is stunning that how people treat you different, even when you're 10, or I mean, it's gross. It's gross, and I wish we knew to be
Hold
protected.
on. I lost you.
Oh no.
1 second. Can you talk?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
I
six,
have no
seven.
audio from you.
Oh
Hold on.
no. That's so weird.
Okay, hold on. Talk now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
I don't know what's wrong.
No, it's
Give me a
weird.
second.
Okay.
Okay, how about now?
1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay,
five,
now we're back.
six.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll
Where do
fix
you
that.
want?
You were saying even at 10, just go to there. Even at 10,
Um,
it's amazing how people treat you differently.
yeah, even at 10, it's amazing how people treat you differently when you lose weight or, change your body. Yeah. So that was a whole at the core of addiction, I guess, is like, I'm not good, I'm not quite right, I'm different, I'm not good enough. I'm not sure. There's a lot of ways to describe addiction, but the it led to essentially a whole lifetime on top of booze, like a whole lifetime of eating or dieting. Like, I feel like it was one or the other. I'm eating
Right.
whatever I want, or I'm dieting and restricting.
So, let me ask you this because you're adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever feel like I don't feel like, 'cause I mean, even though I'm not adopted, but I did grow up with a stepfather and my
Mm-hmm.
siblings were half siblings. And I definitely felt like the only one in my family who feels the way I feel. Like nobody else
100%.
had addiction.
And
Nobody.
I,
They drank completely normally. I've never seen my parents drunk. My biological father, though, had addiction, but I didn't really grow up with him. So it was very hard to like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't
yeah,
feel like there was this genetic connection.
yeah. I Did you ever, when you watched the Muppets, did you hone in on Gonzo? Because like that's his story.
Oh, really?
Yes, like that's his story. I mean, not that they're addicts, that'd be wild, but like there was a movie where he literally is from another planet and he meets people from the and I started crying. I think I was 30 when I saw it. It's like Muppets from from space. But I yes, as a kid, I all the things I was talking about this last night where I led a meeting of there were just so many things that I now call alcoholism or addiction. I just had other words for it, like adoption, my adoption feelings. I now like it's all in descriptions about alcoholism. Like I don't belong here. You don't understand me. I'm different. And not just like I'm different from I am quite different from my three other immediate family members, but it was like, no, I'm like unique. I don't belong anywhere. That you the word intense was the perfect word. This intense neediness to belong and this intense conviction of how intensely different you are. And so it's an impossible path and there's nothing for me. It's this mix of victim and it's all no one taught me this, you know.
My mom was a therapist, and
Mm.
it's funny, this has not come up at all since I started doing this podcast, but this is just something I remembered. My mom told me that I'm too needy. She was like, there's never enough. Like, it's never going to be enough for you. Like, there's not enough love for you. There's not enough. You just want so much. And it
Wow.
was so I had that feeling of like, oh, I'm too much.
When you were little, you were
When I
told
was
that
young.
when you
Yeah.
were young.
Yes. Young and then all the way through to being like a teenager. Would tell me, you're too much. It's too much. I can't
Wow.
provide what you seem to need.
Oh, wow. So you were basically being told, stop trying to get your needs met.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. As opposed to, I guess now we would want to try to empower, I guess, a person with tools to meet their need. Let's try ways to comfort yourself or give yourself what you need, or maybe you need, maybe let's help you discover how to take care of yourself or what. But
We wouldn't say you're too needy is one thing
yes.
that we definitely wouldn't say. Yes,
Yeah.
we would we would try to figure out another way to say like stop needing so much.
Right. Oh gosh. Yeah, it was brutal. The 80s were so like just run around, just go play in a field. Just get just Amscray, please.
Yeah.
Just get
Yeah.
out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, my what I found with my parents that as far as drinking goes, I guess they drink normally. I mean, I would almost diagnose one of them as an alcoholic, but they certainly never, I mean, I think the definition technically is, you want to stop and you can't. And I don't think they ever had that first part, so they never had the second. But my they drank and they were just these like regular, my mom's a teacher, so they're the rules and just do your work and calm down. They're very calm. They're just very moderate people, both of them.
Right.
I never even heard my parents argue, like, or I've never even heard them disagree with each other. And so very, very moderate people, it and stern rule people. And then Friday would come, Friday, Saturday, and like the margaritas come out and like they were so happy and laughing with their friends and eating whatever. Like it was teachers came over for happy hour and it was suddenly these women who just ate carrot sticks and wheat thins at lunch every day were like cheese, the like the crock pot of melted cheese and chips and 14 margaritas and their lot. And I was like, oh my God, alcohol, like I can't wait. Like it was like this, I was just night and day for like what adulthood was. It was like dreary job you don't like, rules, or live it up with with
Right,
your
right, right.
friends.
So you graduate high school
Went
and
to
then
college
you went to college.
and my drinking, I probably chilled a little bit on the drinking my senior year because I certainly didn't take to alcohol in the sense of, oh, once I drank, I got drunk all the time. But my drinking was like, maybe I would drink a little, or maybe I would drink a ton and pass out, or black out. And
Right.
and
Same.
yeah,
Unpredictable.
so it was hard to say how much of a problem it was. Like to me, it just seemed like, well, that's what drinking was. So like in college, I was part of this big co-ed group, service organization, and we would have big parties, which is why I joined. It did not really care about the volunteer work, but that part made me feel like a good person. But then really it was the largest co-ed group on UT Austin's campus. And so I was like, that ups the odds of boys. And but we would have like I got so drunk at a party last night, and then I one night last night at this party in college, and I was like, I'm just gonna go lay down in the back of my friend's truck. Like it was not his truck. Like what? Like I would come to driving sometimes, which at the time just seemed like, wow, isn't this so crazy? And it's like, no, I mean, no, that's incredibly serious and dangerous, and pregnancy scares and more than scares, and nurses handing me pamphlets about drinking, and
Wow. Okay.
did I need to report things, and I was like, whatever, like nerd. Like it was, but it was sometimes, and I was still functioning, and I could not imagine that I was an alcoholic. But I did find journals later that I wrote in college where I was like, I think I'm an alcoholic. I think I might have a drinking problem. But you feel better 17 hours later, and then somebody says, do you want to go get a drink? And you go, yeah, what, of course. I got to live my life,
Yeah.
like I didn't have the like sad barfly drinking. I don't think ever, I always had drinking, always looked like, well, yeah, that would be a fun thing to go do right now,
Right. So
even
then,
though
so
it
you
wasn't.
graduate college. Tell me about getting Austin Stories.
What did I do? Okay, so I wanted to do comedy. And in college, I might have mentioned, oh, I wanted to study acting for college. And my dad said no. And they didn't put their foot down, but he said, I will not pay for that, which I have an English degree. It is not any better than it is. But that's the line he drew. And I told my mom I wanted to do comedy. And then she said, well, no. She said, get a teaching certificate. And the way she put it, to her credit, was, if you never use it, fine. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't really know how to just go do comedy. And so I was like, and I liked school. So I was like, okay, another year or whatever of school. So I taught seventh grade, and I was staring down the barrel of being a seventh grade teacher, just like my mom, and nothing wrong with being a teacher unless it's not what you want to do. And most of the women in my family are teachers, and some of the men are also school system people. And honestly, I know in my biological family, also teachers. So
Wow.
there was karma is very strong in teaching for me. And I was about to start student teaching. I got a job. I got very depressed at the end of as college was winding down. I got super, super depressed. Like I had like kind of a breakdown because I was not really pursuing what I wanted to do with my life, I think. And I just dramatically, as an addict does, just thought, oh, well, then if I don't do this dream, this is just my life for 50 years, like as if you don't even have to live those 50 years, as if you just wake up and your whole life is gone and you didn't try anything. That was how I saw it. So I had this meltdown. Like I took a test on Wednesday and just drove home, and my home was 3 hours away, in Dallas. But I went to school in Austin. And so I was put on Prozac and like declared depression. And uh anyway, I honestly, it's weird because I feel like I'm saying this out of nowhere, but I also, it's true. And I guess it's not out of nowhere. Maybe it makes sense to you, but like, I did not want to continue. I didn't want to be alive. Like,
Wow.
yeah, like this was the end of college. Like, I felt like I don't know how to I guess it's that intense, to keep using that term, like overwhelm of like, okay, I knew how to do school. And my mom was a teacher. Like, school made sense to me. A schedule makes sense to me. Do this, you'll get this grade. I can process out. Adulthood just seemed like a giant question mark. And I don't know how to do, I want to do comedy, vague. Who gets to do that? What does it even mean? And how do you do that in Austin, Texas? And I had a moment. So this is how I came to be on MTV, I guess was your question. I had a moment in my college apartment, and I just thought, it's so, I guess, trigger warning. It's weird to talk about this, but this is what happened. Where I was like, I would just want to die. Like, I don't want to live that, what life feels like right now. I don't want to live it. And then I thought, well, okay, let's say you did die. You're not here. You died. What do you wish you would have done? I asked myself in this like pretty intense moment. And I was like, comedy. I just wanted to do comedy. And then I was like, well, go do comedy. And I got a phone book because I am 55 years old. So I Yellow Pages, C, comedy.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I'll give everybody a moment.
Hi, comedy. It's me, Laura.
Hi, comedy. I called comedy. Yes, I did. What a great title
Can
for
I
that.
come see you? Yeah.
Yes. Hi, comedy. Can you come get me? Like, I needed to be those intense friendships you were talking about. I needed that with comedy.
Right.
Comedy. You don't know me, but I know we'd be really good friends.
The best
And
friends. I promise you're gonna like me.
we'd be such good friends. I would always return your notes and I would keep all your secrets, comedy. And I called comedy. There were two comedy places, and I called them both. One, busy signal. And I was like, I'm literally on suicide watch here. But the other one, I said, it was a big, A-list comedy club in town. And I said, are you hiring for something? And I didn't even know what. I didn't even know what I was doing. But they were like, well, sometimes, we're hiring ticket people or whatever. If you want to fill out an application and leave it, you can. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you would have thought someone just gave me $6 million. Like, I was like, oh, wow, fill out an application. Like, I was in the door, like my foot was in the door, and
Right.
I filled out an application. They were like, we're not hiring, but okay. I mean, they could not have cared less. They were just like, all right, I'll throw this away as soon as you leave. Thanks for coming in on a Saturday. But they called like a week or two later, and I got hired selling tickets at a comedy club. And it was literally, it was a dream come true. And I am also still getting to how I got on MTV. So I sell tickets to this comedy club. I meet comedians. I start making them laugh. And I needed that. I needed to feel like I could do this. I wanted to do comedy so bad, and I was terrified. It was the night before I started student teaching. I did my first open mic because, like, integrity wise, I was like, I have to try it. I was like, even if I fail being a comedian, I want to know I technically did comedy longer than I taught school.
I
Is that
love
crazy?
that. No, I love it. I love it.
So I did open mics for about a year. MTV came to Austin and did a showcase, some producers from MTV. I was not picked to be in the big show on the big stage. And a cute boy who was a comedian said, you got to get in that show. There's only one woman and she's 40 and you're cute and you're, 23 or whatever I was. And you're funny and you have 5 minutes. Go ask the manager if you can be in the show. And I couldn't believe it, but I did. And I asked if I could be in the show. And I even said, well, I'll go first. I'll whatever. And she was like, well, let me think, you don't have to go first, but let me think about it. She put me first, which,
Oh
is
no.
when people are still getting seated. And,
Yes.
but I've never rehearsed for anything more than those 5 minutes. I mean, a bomb could have gone off right next to me and I would have just not even skipped a
Uh-huh.
beat. And I knew it. And the next night I went to go sell tickets and they said MTV execs want to take you out to dinner. And they took me and these three guys out to dinner. And then they said, we want to do a show with you. And then I starred on a show on MTV. That is literally what happened.
That was a big show. Austin Stories. That was a big
Well,
show. I mean, when I met you, that was like my generation. So I was like, what? Wow. She was on Austin Story. Like, that was cool. So were
it,
you a little celebrity for a while?
it was cool. And I was kind of a celebrity. And I wish once you get sober and you're like, I wish I could have, like, once you even out, you're like, I wish I could have been even at these other times in my life, like, but to be an untreated alcoholic at the time, it's, I was drunk sometimes, but it's not like I was just drunk. It was like, I didn't, you know, I have no tools to ride highs and lows. And it's all highs and lows, everything feels like the biggest. I had no perspective of
Right.
like, well, it's your first show and it's going to last some period of time and then end and you'll keep working and just make sure to keep, you just have to keep working hard. I was like, I'm on a show, I'm a, like, I had no way to conceive with perspective what was happening to me, so everything was like the biggest deal. Or I would fight that and be like, it's not a big deal. I mean, who cares? Like, it's just cable. My brain said that. I was like,
Right.
be on MTV. And then my brain was like, well, it's just cable. Like, calm
See,
down.
I
You're
was
still,
sober when I got a TV show in
oh,
my 40s, and my brain was like, oh my God, it's finally happening. I'm going to
yes.
be a huge star. Even, and then I would also have the thing where I was like, all right, calm down. It's Nick Jr. at night. Like, it's experimental. Like, but the other part of my brain was like, well, I'm gonna have to look for a new, much bigger agent. Like, things are gonna start
Yeah.
happening. I'm gonna have to just get my being asked for autographs face down pat because yeah, none of that happened. So
Does
then
your brain also, when you're going down the road, this is deep. When you're going down the road of like, oh my God, it's all gonna happen. Does your brain also imagine the point where like now you're already sick of it? No one's even like, oh, now I'm being hounded. You're like, nothing has happened, but in your brain, like, I would already be like, oh, I don't know what to say to fans, or what. Like, I would go, I'm just sitting, like order, like, from the time I order a burger to the time they hand it to me, I've cycled through 80 cycles of various levels of
well, I had
success
a
and
thing
failure.
when I was going out with a script when I was trying to be a screenwriter years ago, and I was trying to sell a script, and I was writing with Bonnie McFarlane, and we had all these meetings. And the big thing that kind of took over my brain was like, oh my God, we're going to sell this movie for $1 million against $1 million. And my boyfriend is going to break up with me because he's going to be so intimidated by my money. And
Yes.
it's just going to be uneven. And he's not going to want to be like, it's going to ruin success has ruined our happy home. I was that
Yeah.
far.
Yes. I
Don't
love
worry, because I
your
never sold the screenplay. So,
I love your beautiful broken brain. I have the same thing too. I mean, that's what's so funny in talking to alcoholics. Like, when we, any kind of addict, when we share our stories, it's so funny what we think is happen. When I first got sober, there was this woman who was like, 20 years sober, and I was telling her something like this. I was like, all my friends said to me was, hey, I'm doing this little film festival. If you want to put something in it, there's a first look thing with Adam Sandler's company. And I think I ended up saying something to her like that. Plus, now I have to write something for Adam Sandler. And she just goes, woo, you she just goes, the way she said it, I love, she goes, you've got all these notions. Oh my God. It was the perfect way to put, you've got all these notions. Like there was something so insulting about notions, but it's also just so true. Just notions. Like what, like you just made that up. Like
Right.
even when I was teaching, at any point I could have been like, well, like a normal person, like, well, I'm teaching seventh grade now, and then I'll do comedy, and maybe I can cross over. It was like now or never, which is, it's great in a way. Like it propelled me into a different kind of life, and maybe non-alcoholism would never have got me up on stage or to LA, or I don't know.
Right.
Or maybe I would have done everything and had a smoother ride. I mean, we'll never know, obviously, but
So after Austin Stories ended and then it didn't get picked up, right?
mhm.
And then you came out to LA
2022.
after that.
Yeah, came to LA, and also no tools to deal with any of this, and no, I mean, the internet, was new, but you didn't know, you couldn't just ask it questions yet. Like, hi, I was on a, now you could just Google, I was on a show. There'd be a whole Reddit forum about what to do when your show ends, and how many other people are in that predicament. And,
Right.
like, but at the time it just felt very singular. And what do I do? And oddly, management, no, they're not babysitters. So like it doesn't even occur to them to sit you down and say, hey, here's the landscape and here's what you need to do. But I felt like someone should say that, like if there had been a class, I would have taken it, like I didn't. And I did take acting classes and writing class, anyway. So I just was kind of floundering. And for me, the drinking, so I guess it was like 8 or 9 more years of drinking after I moved to LA, but it just got worse. So I came out to LA like late 20s, and then I still felt like a mess. I ended up getting a job in San Francisco, a writing thing, and I met some guy who had proposed to me. And then my mom got diagnosed with cancer, and I panic married. Like at 30, I just was like, well, no one's else gonna, I just felt fat and gross and drunk. And what have I even done with my 20s? And I thought I did a TV show, and then I didn't get on another TV show. I'm a failure. Like that was my singular conclusion. I had no capacity to see it any other way until, I mean, literally like a year ago. Like I've really sat with this for a long time. And I uh would drink and sleep with people and do gross stuff. And then I married this guy, and then it wasn't good. And then my mom died, and then I just got super depressed again. Everything in life was just like, how did this happen? I was teaching at an Orthodox yeshiva. Stefanie, did you know that?
No, I did not know that. That's very shocking.
It's
Not that you got back into teaching, but yeah, it's things are extreme with you for sure.
things are extreme for sure. I yeah, it was on monster.com of all things. And I had this I just thought it was a teaching job. And then I went to interview, and it was this Orthodox yeshiva. I was wearing pants, which you are not supposed to do. They were not, but they didn't tell me, and they didn't even tell me what it was. But they hired me because they were like, oh, you've actually taught. They were getting accredited, and they needed teachers. And anyway, and it was only like 13 hours. So I did that, and I did a sketch show, and I was piecing life together. And then I hit what, oh, I know. Here's what led to getting sober. Was life got worse and worse. And it was, and this, the guy I married was, he was like the first person in my life who said, I think you might be an alcoholic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I said, you just don't know how to drink. And we were both right. We were, no one was wrong in that
Uh-huh.
conversation. They did not know how to drink. He would get together with like his brother and his friend and their wives, and they'd be like, yeah, let's, we'll get some beer and hey, and just like watch some movies and like hey, they would make it sound like let's get drunk and hang out, like they would use that language. And we went and got beer, and they got uh, a 6-pack, and I was like, there's 4 of us. Like it was the first time, honestly, when you look at all the ways you didn't drink in various times, I honestly was like, oh, I can't drink around them. Like, because I can't drink how I want to, I won't drink around them. And I had never made decisions like that. So my drinking was just getting progressively worse and progressively needing more rules and more outlets to act out. And then I got into a food program um that kind of cleared me up, and then I got divorced. I left that guy. I got a really good job and I left that marriage, and I just thought my whole life was changing in this got through this it was a 12-step food program. In this program they tell you not to drink because it's empty calories, and I was like, not the way I do it. I fill them up with boys. These calories, this is more fun than you'll have in a year. And but they were like, we don't drink. And it was the first time in my adult life like I didn't drink for like a month, the first month. And I was like, wow, the food thing is really helping me. And I was like, but like I confided in a friend, but I think that not drinking is probably good for me. And I did it for like, I would do it like chunks at a time, like 2 months, and then but every time I slipped it was with alcohol. And I would never have thought that. I would have thought cookies or something, but
Right.
every time I slipped in that program it was with alcohol. So my brain started noticing like, alcohol might have become a problem. And essentially I got to I'll wrap up the story, but I got to get to my bottom. I was in this and I felt like, sunlight of the spirit and happy, and feel like I was actively out of my addiction, but I didn't understand like using like a sober program to deal with feelings and life, and how to face life and how to really tell your story to someone and be seen and be part of a group. Like I didn't really understand recovery,
Mm-hmm.
but I was actively out of substance, and I felt great. And then I met a guy one night at a comedy club, and he was like a little bit drunk and went outside to like smoke and I think get high. And he was just full of, but he was very cute, and I had lost some weight, so I was in like a, what do you say? I had upped my league. Like I was in a new, like he would not have talked to 3 months before
Mm-hmm.
Laura. And so that was very interesting to me. And but I remember thinking like I was about to learn to meditate. Like I had just signed up for a meditation course. I finally got my life on track. I had this incredible job. I like was writing on a hit network show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, network TV show, money, on the lot, the whole thing. And I was like, everything is, I don't need this guy in my life. Like everything is finally going my way. And then he was like, I'd love to hang out with you. And I was like, well, I'm pretty busy. And he was like, we could just hang out as friends. And I was like, well, that's fair. At 5 seconds into hanging out as friends, I'm like vodka, French fries, making out with him in the parking lot. I mean, just that's me. It was like Norway all over again.
Right, right.
It's like, nope, that's not who I am. Well, you know what? Why not? And that led me to like a year later, I hit my bottom, and
What
then
was that?
and
What was
got,
like the night? What was the last night?
The night was I had gone to visit some friends in Texas and Oklahoma. So my job had ended, like we didn't know if there would be another season or something. So I took the time to like go see family and some friends in, Austin, Dallas, and Oklahoma. And when I was in Oklahoma, I went out with my friend Ray, he's one of those guys who's like the most fun person, Like he when he had been younger, he bought a hearse at an auction to use as a limo, like just to drive his friends to concerts and stuff. Like he was a guy who could drink like 25 beers and then like run a marathon the next day. He's an animal.
Hmm.
And he was DJing some bar. I just was spending a few days with him and his friends and just as an old friend and catching up. He was a friend from Texas, but he had moved to Oklahoma City. And so there was this one night and I did everything. Like he was DJing just a dive bar, like not even a big deal, but I like had it in my head like, oh yeah, we're gonna party like it was an Oscars party or some big event. And like people were day drinking, I'm day drinking, people were smoking. I don't smoke, but like I don't want to miss anything. We're drinking beer, we're drinking whiskey, we're smoking. Somebody said, do you want some Coke? And I was in a way like trying to be good. So I go, no, like that's where I had the line. I go, no, 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 thanks. And then this guy said, you sure? And I was like, well, okay. I mean, yeah, like, what was I going to say, Steph? Like, he
Right.
wore me down.
Right.
I was like, man, if this guy's going to keep coming at me, like, I better just do this. Cause so I'm like, I'm doing Coke that at the bar, there was a Red Bull and vodka booze luge, like ice booze luge. And I like put my mouth right on it, I'm sure, which is probably literally the grossest thing I did when I was drinking. And literally making out with this one guy, he wanders off and I'm just making out with another guy. And
Been there.
yes, and it's it seems so fun in a sense as it's happening, but I didn't even unpack this till I was sober for years. But what happened was we leave this bar. So I kind of had a couple, a semi boyfriend, this, just here's the guy I'm going to make out with while I'm visiting my friend. And uh, we go back to Ray's. Um, so it's the guy I'm kind of making out with, and then my friend Ray. But Ray would like he went to go see his boyfriend, and so I'm just like making out with this guy. But then the other guy I had been making out with at the bar, shows up at Ray's house, and he wasn't wrong. Like I had definitely been in invitational, in this way. But then the guy that was my like kind of fake boyfriend for a couple of days was like, "Well, I'm out." Like he was not interested in a showdown. And I was like, "Wow, this is well, okay." And I'm sort of I'm with this guy, not all the way, but like and then at some point I get uncomfortable and I don't want to proceed. And he is not interested in stopping. And I am also sensing this pretty strongly. And I excused myself to like go like to the restroom that seemed like and I locked myself in it and called Ray to come back, which he did. But I very much put myself in a place to be seriously assaulted and not with that, I didn't even understand that till later. I was just more like, oh, this is what am I doing? I have to. And like, it was only later that I was like, yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
Like, hey, please assault me. And and then the night top when Ray came back, he came back with like Taco Bell, like which there was just, I mean, it was all my things. It was just Pac-Man fever in, you know, this like 12-hour period. And when it was my moment of clarity was I was driving back to my dad's house the next morning from Oklahoma, you know, headache. And I'm, you know, my morning meal was like a chicken fried steak sandwich and a milkshake, you know, like, and a year before I had been clean eating and no alcohol, and I felt good and I felt happy and I felt good about myself. And then this was 1 year later, and they had said, you know, we can't stop. Like, we can't stop without help. They had said in the group I had been in. And so it was driving home that that's what hit me. Was I was like, oh, I'm never going to stop. Like, I can't stop. I am 37. This literally was fine at 19. It was, you know, cute in a way. And I was like, you're going to be doing this at 57, 67, if you're even around for that. And I was like, I've got to get help. And then when I got back to LA, I went, you know, to like recovery rooms and got help.
You know what? This is a great place. I want to stop here, but there's a little part two. There's a part two, I feel like, of what happens after you stop and then tackling the other part. So I want to invite people to come to part two. So this is the end of part one. Thank you so much. I know people are going to want to hear the rest. This is so far been so good.
It
This
gets
is
better.
so good. Okay. All right. We will be back tomorrow. Bye.
Feeling like life is good, yeah.